How did Billy the Kid die? We'll talk about that and more only right here. How did Billy the Kid die? How did this legendary lawman meet his demise? Well, this is the series where we talk about how some of the most notorious people in history died. So if you like true stories, real history, then make sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Now, this is going to be one of the shortest episodes ever, because there isn't much to talk about when it comes to the death of Billy the Kid. That's not to say his life was any less interesting, though. Born Henry McCarty in New York City, the future outlaw would grow up with an assortment of names and aliases, including William H. Bonney, William B. Bonney, and even the Kid. He changed these names frequently, perhaps to hide from authorities or maybe just because he could. But all agreed on one thing. Billy the Kid was one of the deadliest gunmen of his time. He started his criminal career as a saloon brawler before moving to the killing fields of the American frontier. In 1878, while living in Fort Sumner, New Mexico, he worked for John Tunstall, a wealthy rancher who had been granted 600 acres of land by the U.S. government. They say the federal government chose to ignore claims from Hispanic settlers who had lived on the land for years, stole their cattle, and hired mercenaries to drive them out. And young Billy was one of those mercenaries. It wasn't long before he became the leader of Tunstall's gang, a band of outlaws who made their money stealing and smuggling horses across the border into Mexico. But eventually, the gang went too far when they attacked a wagon train filled with supplies for the U.S. Army. The attack failed, and Billy found himself on the wrong side of a six-gun salute from the Army. He spent a year hiding in the mountains until he heard that the sheriff's men were looking for him. Dead or alive, he slipped back into town and gave them the slip. Then he did the only logical thing he could think of, joined the sheriff's department, and became a deputy. It was here that he earned the moniker Billy the Kid, a name supposedly given to him by Sheriff Pat Garrett after he killed two men in a card game and said, "It's real easy to kill the two-bit gamblers," making him sound like a child. For a couple of years, he patrolled the frontier, chasing down outlaws and bringing them to justice. Or maybe he was just collecting souls for his personal kill count, depending on who you ask. But when a former gang member turned informant testified against him in court, Billy quit the force and took to the hills once again. After a few months in hiding, he rode into town, strolled into the jailhouse, and told the sheriff he wanted to be arrested. When asked why, he simply replied, "I'm tired." Now, there are a lot of different versions of what happened next. Some say he killed the sheriff's men in cold blood. Others say he was trying to break out of jail when he was wounded and taken to a ranch outside of town where he died. But regardless of exactly how it happened, we know that he survived his arrest, and he also survived an attempt on his life by Lincoln County Sheriff Pat Garrett. Billy rode out of town to find a horse to ride when Garrett and his posse showed up. A gunfight ensued, but Billy managed to escape despite being wounded. He hid out in a cave until Garrett left town, and when the coast was clear, he returned home. A reward had been placed on his head, dead or alive, and it seemed like everyone wanted to collect it. At least 25 men claim to have killed the Kid, but only 2 can be verified, and neither of them were Sheriff Garrett. In his autobiography, Garrett claimed to have killed Billy in Fort Sumner on July 14, 1881. However, the actual circumstances surrounding his death are unknown. Some reports say that Garrett ambushed him, but others claim that Billy went down in a blaze of glory, taking several deputies with him. It wasn't until 1901, 20 years after the supposed gunfight, that a man named Jesse Evans came forward claiming to have been there that day. He said that he was at the ranch that morning when he heard gunshots and saw Garrett ride in with Billy's body behind him. Evans added that the whole thing had been planned out between them and that they split the reward money 3 ways. There's no evidence to support this claim, though, and some historians believe Evans was full of it. Another theory claims that Billy was actually killed during a robbery in Santa Rosa, New Mexico. According to this account, Billy was riding with his associate Tom O'Folliard when they were approached by a group of cowboys looking for a fight. The 2 gunmen held them off until backup arrived, but not before Billy was shot. This version of events is supported by Dr. J.C. Wyndham, who treated Billy for his wound and sent him on his way. Despite believing Billy to be dying, the kid stayed alive long enough to reach Fort Sumner, where he died a few days later. So which version of events is true? Sadly, we may never know. The truth is, both accounts are fairly credible, and both men could have played a role in the kid's death. After all, it's very possible that Billy had a run-in with the sheriff in Fort Sumner, only to be mortally wounded a few days later during a robbery gone wrong. What we do know for sure is that Billy was buried in a shallow grave near the ranch where he died. His grave is unmarked and his remains have never been recovered. But in the years since his supposed death, there have been many attempts to disprove Garrett's claims about killing Billy. These attempts have included exhuming the alleged gravesite and searching for bullet fragments, but none of them have produced any concrete evidence. However, in 1998, a forensic team returned to the area where Billy was supposedly buried. They used ground-penetrating radar to scan the area for anomalies and discovered a spot that looked promising. When they dug further, they found human bones. But when the bones were analyzed, they proved to be from a woman and child. While the discovery didn't confirm anything, it does raise the possibility that Billy's body was moved after he died. So the search continues. Perhaps one day his body will be found and laid to rest properly. Until then, his grave remains a mystery and the legends continue to grow. So how did Billy the Kid die? We may never know for sure, but we do know that he was one of the deadliest gunmen of his time. Speaking of deadly gunmen, gunslingers are known for their lightning-fast draw and deadly aim. But what exactly makes someone a gunslinger? Is it their clothing, their weapons, or their attitude? Well, all of those things combined make someone a gunslinger. Their clothing might consist of loose-fitting cotton shirts, which allowed for faster drawing of a sidearm. They typically wore boots with low heels and no toes, allowing for quicker movement when dismounted. They usually carried a pair of pistols, one for backup and one for the action, as well as a rifle for long-range shooting. But a gunslinger wasn't just defined by his gear. They were known for their quick temper and willingness to draw first and ask questions later. Most gunslingers were outlaws or lawmen working in the Wild West, traveling from town to town providing whatever form of justice that was required. In order to survive, a gunslinger needed to be quick on the trigger, accurate with his aim, and have a healthy respect for the power of his weapon. All right, now it's time to hear from you. What did you think of this episode? Was it everything you hoped it would be? Which version of events do you think is true? Did Billy go down in a blaze of glory, or was it a slow death at the hands of a grieving family? Let us know in the comments section below. And while you're there, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.